Think back to the last test you took. Did you do well on it or did you do bad? There are two types of test takers in this world: natural test takers and people who don't take tests very well. Did failing a test ever make you feel unintelligent? Students are starting to memorize information. So students have a really big course load, and sometimes they have more than one test on a day, and so instead of sitting down to learn the information, they're just memorizing it. Students have test anxiety. It's a disorder that is plaguing the student community, and it prevents them from performing to their full potential. Students vary in level of skill. No two human beings are the same, and so giving a test to every student in the class could be detrimental because not everybody shares the same skill. Exams are not real indicators of intelligence. If you're stressing about tests, why not just memorize the information and then get it down the next day and forget it, right? Students are memorizing information. I went to a debate.org site, and it showed a bunch of college students and high school students talking about how they felt about exams, showing how intelligent they were. Most of the students disagreed with the fact that exams should show how intelligent they are. How are you supposed to be deemed intelligent if you are forgetting the information a year later, but you can remember it the next day? 3 students from Amsterdam also did an experiment that I found on JSTOR, and they compared high self-efficacy students with low self-efficacy students. And self-efficacy is the ability to set and achieve goals. And obviously the students with high self-efficacy did well on exams, and students with low self-efficacy did poorly. But that doesn't mean that the low self-efficacy students weren't intelligent. It just means that they maybe were a little bit too lazy to study or were uninterested in studying. Students are starting to memorize information because they have a lot of work to do, and some of them just really don't want to sit down and study the information for a really long time to actually learn it. Not only are students stressed, but students are also being plagued with the disorder of test anxiety. Students have test anxiety. I went to a depression and anxiety website to figure out exactly what test anxiety is. And the causes of it are fear of failure, lack of prep, or poor test history. And some symptoms are headache, nausea, sweating, anger, or obviously fear. Test anxiety is a big problem because it's preventing students from actually performing as well as they could on a test because they're so scared. And 2 students from Michigan State did a experiment with 2 high schools, an urban high school and a suburban high school. And the urban high school had 97% of their students at an economic disadvantage, and the suburban high school had 0% of their students at an economic disadvantage. They gave the students 2 tests, the FTAS, which was a test anxiety level test, and the OGT, which was a state test which the students have to take in order to pass high school. And they found that students who performed higher on the FTAS obviously performed lower on the OGT. But they also found that economic status did not impact the way that the students performed on their test. Not everybody has test anxiety, but we all have different skills. Students vary in level of skills. A student named Andrew Levy and a scientist did experiments and research on the fact that kids are naturally better at other subjects than other kids, and that kids' intelligence is genetic. So it's obvious that some kids are better at math than others, and some kids are better at English than others, and vice versa. Kids' intelligence, they found, is genetic. Most people didn't want to talk about it because they didn't want to label kids, but now it's starting to come out that kids' intelligence depends on some of your parents' genes. So it's not fair to kids to give them a test that would test their intelligence when they can't even control really what they're really smart in and things like that. So tests should also be given in different ways because kids also have different learning styles. All students vary in skill and no two are alike. I know I had friends at school who didn't like to take tests and didn't like to study, but they were still very intelligent. So them having exams tell them if they were intelligent or not was not a real factor in saying if they were intelligent or not. There's no way to prove intelligence by putting questions on a piece of paper and having students answer them, because students have different learning styles and have different ways of showing their competence. I want you to think about how much tests have affected you in your life, and also how it would feel to do bad on a test and be called unintelligent. Students are memorizing information, students have test anxiety, and students have different skill levels. Exams are not real indicators of intelligence.